All right, so we have seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and it was a fun and thrilling ride.
Oh boy, please never watch that movie in
Literally.
4DX. We were literally on a ride. The train sequence at the beginning was tumultuous. Like I almost dropped my slushy.
Okay, well, that was actually, you're right. We have never seen a movie in 4K, right? So I thought, hey, great idea. I think
Yeah, I'm
this would
like,
be the
oh, it's
perfect
just gonna be
movie to
effects, we're just gonna be sitting down.
this would be the perfect movie to see in 4K. So
How
we went.
so?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I never seen a 4K movie, and I thought this would be a great time to go see one. I thought it was just, like as visual effects like smoke or water or
Yeah, I thought
whatever.
we'd have 3D
Yeah,
glasses.
depending. No, not 3D. No, I knew it wasn't 3D, but
Well,
I was expecting.
4D combines all the elements, so it's like
Yeah,
1D, 2D,
which
3D, and 4D.
okay. Well, we didn't need 3D glasses, right?
Yeah, because
Right.
there were no 3D effects, which didn't
Exactly.
make
But I
sense.
did expect that there would be the elements, like you say, like wind and rain and smoke and all that stuff, which was fine. But I had no idea that the seats were going to move. I mean, like I, I was just, my seats are shaking. I'm going up and down, like you're at an amusement park, and
Yeah.
then the
Oh, the
popcorn is
tuk-tuk,
flying around. It
the
was
tuk-tuk was
strange.
crazy.
Yeah, it was. It took some time for me to, I think it distracted me from seeing the movie at first, but then as the movie went along, I got used to it.
Well,
But
I wasn't
anyway,
distracted. I heard them play the Indiana Jones theme 12 times.
well, that's always a good thing. You can never have enough of that theme. All right, so thank you everyone. So this is a spoiler review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This is Father Son Galaxy. I am Kerwin. This is Keith. If you're new to the channel, thank you. Welcome. Just wanted to give you a heads up. This is a spoiler review. I always forget to say that at the beginning, but this time I remembered. So
Spoilers.
if you have not seen the film, you want to, turn us off, unfortunately, and watch us when you've seen it. Or if you don't care, or if you've already seen it, wonderful. Stick around. This is going to be a fun time to discuss. All right. So uh, let's get into it. And thank you for those who are joining us for the first time. All right. So you're right. You start off with the train sequence. As we said when we were prepping for the movie, that the beginning of the movie was going to start with a flashback, and it goes back to World War II, sometime in the 1940s. We see Indy, a de-aged Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford has gone on the interview circuit and explain how it works. He says he can explain, but he doesn't really quite understand it. But that's okay. So we see that it is Harrison Ford. Apparently, there are photos of Ford taken by filmmakers in the past, Spielberg or Lucas, whatever they have in their archive, and they took these photos of him when he was in his 30s and used it again to recreate Indy from the 1940s. The only thing that they didn't do was
The age's voice.
they didn't age his voice. So when you heard Indy speak for the first time, the de-aged Indy, you didn't hear a 35-year-old voice. You heard
You heard
present day
Harrison
Harrison
Ford.
Ford. It was pretty interesting,
You
but
didn't hear 35, you heard double 35.
right. But it's fine. It's just something that's
Didn't matter.
yeah.
It
When you
was
heard
like
it the first time, like, oh,
it
okay,
was like 20 minutes.
yeah, it was fine. But look, the 15 minutes, the first 15 minutes of the film was spectacular. It was
So it was epic.
wonderful. It
So
started off. You want to go ahead and tell us
all
about
right.
it? Go
So
ahead. Yeah.
basically, Indy escapes the Nazis,
Yep.
and somehow an atomic bomb drops into the floor,
Right.
blows up.
He's about to be executed.
Somehow
Yeah.
Indy survives it, and then this huge stone nearly falls down on his head. So he has to like untie the rope
Yeah.
and then
He's got a
dodges
noose
it.
around his neck. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. So
That's right. That's
anyway,
right.
he escapes and he manages to find Basil, who got captured, interrogated, and beat up
Yeah.
subsequently.
And Basil is, just
Basil is Helena's father.
well, right. We'll find out who Helena is, but Basil is. I think he's also a college professor. I think he's
Yes.
another archaeologist, just like Indy.
And by the
But they're
way,
they're friends. They know each other.
yes.
Mhm.
So this is when we first meet Voller, and
Played
he,
by Mads Mikkelsen.
yeah,
Mhm.
Mads. So anyway, like I was saying, this is when we first meet Voller, and he he's not that menacing at the beginning. He kind of looks goofy with the glasses.
Yeah.
But he's got Archimedes' dial, or half of it at least. So the thing is, Archimedes broke it in half to keep people from finding it, and he hid both the parts. One was already found, and that one piece would lead you. And that one piece would lead you to a little map that that you have to then melt down because it's made of wax and wood. So you have to melt it down and find something, and then you get to the end. So basically, Voller has half of that. Basil grabs it. They run. Voller tries to get it back. He gets clocked in the head by a train tower, and like one of those huge metal ones, and his head is like right there. And that thing comes at head level, like
Right.
I didn't even know that was Voller because of how dark the shots were. I thought that was just some random Nazi scientist. I thought he was dead too, but
So there's this chase scene, right? So once Indy escapes,
yeah,
right,
they're
he
on a
gets in a
train.
car. Well, he gets in a car. He's driving. Well, he pretends he's a driver, but they realize that it's Indy, and so the Nazis are
Oh, you want to
trying
hear
to
something
grab the
funny?
steering wheel from him, and then he drives off, and he's trying to get, trying to, Baller's on the train. So Indy is driving, trying to get to the train, and he gets to the train, or does he take a motorcycle? I think he gets off, and he's on a motorcycle, and he jumps on the train from the motorcycle. He gets on top of the cars, and you see the scene in the trailer where he is running on top of the cars, trying to find Basil and the dial.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like I said, Voller. I really thought he was gone.
Yeah.
I thought he was well accounted for. And also, funny thing, this is actually a callback to Solo. So the way that the Nazis figured out Indy was an imposter was because there was a bullet hole through his uniform, but he was still alive and he didn't look hurt. So that's how they figured it out.
Solo?
Yeah, because remember in Solo, Beckett had a blaster hole in his outfit, and that's how Han figured it out. Because he's like, unless you heal quickly, you shot someone and stole that costume.
Oh, I see. Okay, I
Remember
got
that?
you. Yeah, yeah,
Back on Mimbin.
I got you. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Harrison Ford movie.
Yeah, well, Harrison Ford wasn't in Solo, but it's his character.
Oh, okay. Well, a movie about a character with Harrison Ford,
All right, I got you.
played by Harrison Ford.
No, we get it. We get it.
You
Right.
get it.
Yeah. So we thought Voller was well. Of course, we knew he wasn't because he shows up in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and he
But
shows up
what
older, like
what happened
gray
to him
hair.
on the train? He was like, "Wow, how does anybody survive that?"
Yeah, you know what else?
Yeah.
I thought he'd at least have like a scar or something on his head.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing. So
Apparently not.
right, and
You
then
know, imagine that you just get hit in the head by a train track or train mark or whatever you call it, a train platform,
yeah, but
and then you just pop up.
yeah, and what's very cool, there was a gunner on top of the cars, I
Oh yeah,
think,
so he's
right?
shooting
And
the car.
yes, right, and they were shooting, and there was also planes flying
Yeah, so what
overhead.
happened was
Yeah.
another atomic bomb fell and it
Hmm.
hit the car, and then it started blasting around and it kept going in circles. So what Indy and Basil did was they managed to escape it by going around it, and they survived, but
They
the
jumped,
cars didn't.
right? At some point, they jumped in the
Yeah, and then they
water.
jumped in the ocean.
Okay, and we thought that the dial was lost, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
Indy
Indy
had
managed to
half of the
keep it.
dial, right, and gave it to Basil. All right, so and that's how the scene pretty much ended. So we're talking about this dial. Well, what is this dial of destiny? What does this mean? So the dial is actually called an Antikythera, which was created by I'm sorry,
Archimedes.
Archimedes, who was a mathematician, so long time ago, back in the day, back in the BC era. He's a mathematician, a scientist. So apparently, what they're saying in this film that he was the one that created the dial back in the day. So that's why it was so valuable. So of course, like any Indiana Jones film, Indy has something that's of value, and the bad guys want to take it away from him because they want to use it for their purposes, right? Okay, and then as far as history goes, Archimedes was actually a part of the siege of Syracuse, which we'll talk about a little bit further
And
ahead.
at
And
the very end, he got killed by a Roman warrior, even
yes,
though he had direct orders not to kill
right,
Archimedes.
they were told not to kill Archimedes, and
They did.
Someone didn't listen, so didn't follow
Somebody
instructions.
didn't get the memo.
He lost his life, and he was an inventor who actually helped protect the city of Syracuse. But he lost his life. All right, so that's the dial. So that's what the dial.
By the way, according to the fandom, Indiana Jones was born July 1st, 1899. So yesterday would have been
birthday.
Yeah, yesterday would have been his 123rd birthday.
How about that? Yeah. So happy birthday, Indiana Jones. Okay. All right.
124th, actually.
Yeah. Right. That's fine. All right. So now.
Old man.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now.
Indiana
we cut
Jones
to
at this time.
1969, and Indiana Jones is now 70, according to his age.
Yep, he's just sitting in a chair, like.
Yeah, you saw this in a trailer, and he looks disheveled. He looks out of it.
He just doesn't seem
all of a sudden
like he's in the right place.
Yeah, we see this Indiana Jones,
this different side of Indy,
who looks like he's down on his luck. He's in this cramped New York City apartment. He's got neighbors who are making noise downstairs, so he wakes up and he's crotchety. He's
crotchety.
Yeah, he's very I don't know what other word. He looks like
very old in senior living.
Yeah, right. He has an attitude problem. Right, he's grumpy. All right, grumpy. So he's got this grumpy old man syndrome or something like that, right? And he wakes up. And apparently, since when did Indy have a drinking problem? So for some reason,
they really made Indy hit rock bottom. I know when we were reviewing the special look, we pulled out that Fandango interview, and they said, Indy's kind of not at his best.
Yeah.
I didn't think that meant strip everything away from the man.
I don't know.
Okay,
what happened.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a thumbs up when the spoilers are over. If you don't want to hear
this entire episode is all spoilers.
Yeah, but this is like the major spoilers. So if you don't want to hear them, turn your volume down.
All right.
Anyway, Marion divorced him. Mutt enlisted in the army and apparently died. Basil is also dead at this point in time.
Yeah.
And he has crazy neighbors who just will not stop playing music. And his goddaughter is kind of like, I don't know, he didn't even recognize her. So this is the first time he's seen his goddaughter in years. Like a good decade, I'd say.
Well, okay, yeah. So all right. So again, he's waking up at this apartment. He's in New York City. We don't know why. I don't think they ever explain why he was in New York City. Maybe
he's at Hunter College. That's why.
Right. He wakes up. He takes a drink. He goes downstairs to the neighbors to complain that they're making a lot of noise. And apparently, this is the day of when the astronauts, Apollo 11 astronauts, return from their successful mission on the moon. And New York City, they're having a ticker tape parade. All right. So we'll talk about that parade a little bit more. So he, like you said, we find out eventually that, he's alone, Okay. So he, takes a train to Hunter College, and he's in this classroom. Now, remember in the past when Indy gave a lecture, his class was packed, right?
And you know what else?
Yes.
He was so good at giving lectures that the kids literally were in love with him.
It's right, true, yeah.
And right now, he can't even keep anyone's attention.
No, yeah.
He can't even keep the attention of anybody except his goddaughter, and that's because she's related to him.
Well, she also has an underlying reason to keep to stay interested, and we'll talk about. So so it's just very interesting what happened. So we were talking about the Crystal Skull, which took place in 1957. And now we're in 1969. So that's only 12 years, in between. So a lot, for some reason, we had a happy ending at the end of the Crystal Skull where, Indy and Marion gets married.
Set up everything really nicely. Mutt was about to pick up the hat, and Indy's like, no, thank you. I'm going to take this back. That's mine. And then him and Marion were happily married. They walked down the aisle. And everyone followed them. It was really happy. Oxley was there at the wedding, which was really nice. I wish they brought back Sean Connery so he could play Henry Jones Sr. to be there for the wedding. That would be really
That would have been
nice.
nice, yeah. But Sean was retired at the time.
Yeah, I get that he was retired, but
Yeah.
like he wasn't dead yet.
Well, no, no, that's true. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, rest in peace.
yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, so we pick up. So he's at $100. Apparently, it's his last day. He's giving. Well, before we get to the retirement party, he is giving a lesson. It's not. I don't think it's anything related to archaeology, but it's a history lesson about the siege of Syracuse.
And the
Right. So,
Antikythera.
right, and then of course, that is a setup for what's going to happen later on in the film. So he has this retirement party. It seems bittersweet. Like he doesn't look very happy. His
I wouldn't be either.
his colleagues look happy for him, but it was like it doesn't seem like he was into it. So then that's when he meets Helena. He didn't recognize his goddaughter at first, and then they go to a bar and they talk it over, and she mentions to him that her dad um, talked about this dial of destiny, and the dial was given to Indy right before her father Basil died, and Indy promised that he was going to destroy this dial because this dial was going to be trouble. If it falls into the wrong hands, this can be used for evil.
Mhm.
And guess what? Indy never destroyed it. He kept it locked and showed it to Helena.
But it was necessary to keep time and place. Like by Indiana Jones not listening to Basil, he saved time.
Okay.
More on that later.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So,
And on that note.
mhm. And on
All
that
right.
note, okay.
So
Yeah.
you wanna go into the
Yes. What I want.
library part?
Yes. Right. So they're in the library. So he shows her the dial, and then apparently there are people who are after Helena.
Mhm.
Right.
So one of the other kids in the class is Agent Mason. She's a CIA agent, and
She's
she's
posing as a student, but she's not really a
she's
student.
posing as a
Yeah.
student. She's not, and she's trying to work with Voller and Clabber to just kind of get them to chill.
Yeah.
Like,
Klobber
to,
is just a
yeah,
henchman.
he
He
is.
works for Voller.
He's kind of crazy. Like,
Hmm.
he can't chill with that gun. Like,
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. And
so
and
anyway,
yeah. And Voller is alive. Right.
yeah.
Right.
So no scars, nothing. One of the one of the scenes where I just kind of felt like Voller was trying to be creepy and just sounded jokey was when he's talking to the room service gentleman who brought him his food,
Yeah.
and he's like, "You thought you won the war? Like, where were you born?" And he's like, "The Bronx. Where are you from?" And he's like, "I was born by Yankee Stadium." And then Voller's like, "You haven't won the war, American."
Yeah.
Like,
Well. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know. That didn't really strike fear in my heart. Like with some of the more established
Yeah.
villains, like let me think of a good example for villains.
Well, can I say something?
The Nazis in the Last Crusade were
Yeah.
pretty good because Elsa Schneider, you never really saw her turning on Indy coming. Like you never saw that. And then when Ray Donovan turned and he was kind of like leading them, he did it just for the money. And I think that just kind of shows how much of a dog eat dog world it is in the world of archaeology. Like, I like that. I think that was a very well set up twist, well laid out, and I think it was also thought out. But here, the villain's not that creepy. Like they were good at being bad. Like,
Mhm.
and remember Mola Rob? Now he was creepy. Now he wasn't necessarily the best indie villain, but he did do a good job of being a villain. Like, but Voller, I feel like he was trying a bit too hard to be creepy. Like Mads was actually good in this role, in my opinion. Just like that speech wasn't really necessary.
Okay, let's go back to what you said in regards to this gentleman that walked into. So Maz is in a hotel,
Hmm.
right? And he is posing as, well, he's not using his real name. To me, I thought he was actually posing as an American because he was on his way to get a Nobel Prize, for helping NASA with, I guess, helping NASA, as a scientist. Um,
Wait. So if he's getting a Nobel Prize for helping NASA as a scientist,
Right. I don't think they knew his
what?
background as a Nazi, right? So he
Now
kept that
wait a minute.
secret. Yeah.
Would if he was a Nazi, wouldn't he have sabotaged the Americans? Like, wouldn't he have like covered up his work in a way that it looked like the ship just kind of exploded instead of making it to the moon and back successfully? Like, I feel like if that's what he's receiving a Nobel Prize for working on that, and he's truly a Nazi, like he would have tried to sabotage it. He would have sabotaged it, or at least tried to sabotage it.
Well, I don't know. Well,
Like
I
I
have to
get
go.
that this is kind of a fixed point in time in the universe because everything that happens in Indiana Jones happens in real life, except for the things that happen with Indiana Jones. So like all the events, World War II, Vietnam, the space race, these things are all happening both in our timeline and the Indiana Jones timeline. So they can't really alter that because it wouldn't really fit with Indy. But I'm just thinking they kind of should have like I don't know, dropped at least one line where Voller's like, I tried to sabotage those Americans.
I don't know if that was his intention. I think that you're talking about things that happen in history, which is factual. I think there were people who wanted to help the U.S. win the space race, right? And it probably didn't matter where they were from originally, but they were very talented and they assisted with American scientists to help U.S. be a part of this space race. So he was posing as an American. You're talking about this scene where this gentleman, a black gentleman, who walks into their hotel room. He's serving
Oh,
them
by the way, to be
customer
fair,
service.
the
Yeah,
person the U.S. was running against was Russia,
yes,
like
that's correct.
the Soviet Union.
Yes,
The Soviet Union was more or less an ally of the Nazis during World War II. So
that is correct.
if the entire point of Voller's arc
Yeah,
is to go back in time to help the Nazis win the war, wouldn't he have been on the Russian side? Because the Russians were the allies. They were fighting against the US. So instead of helping the US, shouldn't he have been helping the Russians, who just so happened to be a contender in the space race?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
Right.
I think he made a choice to help the U.S. And again, we'll
That,
have to go
that
back and
once
look at.
again,
We'll have to go back
that
and just look at
doesn't
history.
make sense.
Yeah, but it's happened. It's there has been people from many backgrounds. Didn't matter. They helped the U.S. win or compete in the space race. So this gentleman walks in, and Voller is asking him like, "Where are you from?" And then you said the Bronx, right? I think that's where he said he was from. But Voller wanted to know, no, where are your people from? And I thought that was a very interesting question to ask. And I think what he was getting at was, your people, you fight for your country, you served your country, but you're back from the war, and here you are as a servant. And what has this country done for you? What is this?
Yeah.
What happened to you? What how is this country benefiting
Yeah,
you?
he served
Yeah,
in the
I
war
yeah.
during
So
the
I think
war.
that it was a couple of lines of dialogue, and then it was dropped. It was intriguing, but they never
They
really
never
picked up on it.
further
Yeah, they
followed
didn't
up on
further follow it. So yeah, we're spending a little more time than I expected on New York City. But so this is
so
actually the one of my favorite parts of the movie was when Indy, we were going back to Indy and Helena got captured. Well, the
Indy was
CIA,
almost captured. He
yeah,
was
and
cornered.
yes, the CIA is after
And
Helena because
mind you,
she.
this is a 70-year-old man
Yes, it's all right.
in a suit
Yeah.
and tie, and he slams into some bookshelves. He topples over an entire line of bookshelves,
Yes, he's very
and
strong
like
for a 70-year-old.
Clabber and Voller
Yeah.
got him
Yeah.
covered in bookshelves, and Clapper just like lifts up the bookshelf and walks off. Like he scoffs and walks off.
Okay.
I'm like, excuse me, sir. Um, about 10 bookshelves just collided into each other
Hmm.
and fell on top of you. How are you not at least wincing? Like, heard I'm like, ah, when you get up. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, and you know what else? The Nazis just had teleportation in this movie.
And what does that
And
mean?
I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But because I just want to finish up New York.
Yeah.
So basically, Indy manages to escape.
Mhm.
Helena's on the rooftops and she's jumping across. And then Indy is on a horse. This man's on a horse and he's riding around and he gets cornered. So he goes down the subway and Clever follows him on a motorcycle and on a horse. And Indy pulls off some of the smoothest dodges. And then eventually, Clabber and Agent Mason come back, and they are just in time to watch Indy get onto the subway and escape. You know who he's sitting next to? A kid with an astronaut helmet.
Okay.
That was funny.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Okay.
And that kid's looking at him like,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
oh, by the way, Clabber, he went after 2 people. They said it was 3. I'm pretty sure it was 2.
Mhm. What do you mean?
The I think she was the secretary.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to
teacher.
talk. Yeah. That. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Indy was framed.
Okay. Yes. All right. So Helena escaped. Indy escaped. All right. So now.
They both escaped. Yes.
Right. So yeah, and this is all happening during the ticket tape parade. So now, all right, let's talk about Sala. Sala's back. All right.
So
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed him in this movie.
Yeah. Mhm.
You notice, Sala seems to be in the better of the movies, 1, 3, and 5.
Mhm.
The odd numbers.
Yeah.
Like 2 and 4, they weren't bad, but they weren't the best. Like now that I've seen all 5 Indy movies, I don't really like Temple of Doom as much as I liked Raiders and Dial of Destiny and Last Crusade. Last Crusade is my favorite actually. I think that was the best one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because it was also the most relatable.
All right. All right. So Sala apparently is living in New York City. He thanked Indy for helping bring his family over, immigrate to the United States. And Sala apparently has some intelligence on Helena, and he lets Indy know that Helena had a criminal record.
Mhm.
Right.
She's also in debt, and she's going to an auction in Tangier.
She's going to an auction in Tangier. So apparently, she's going to take the dial and sell it to the highest bidder because she needs.
Oh, by the way, she has the dial now.
Yes, right. She has the dial.
So I was like, I miss the desert. I miss the wind. I miss the sand. I miss waking up every morning and wondering what adventure I'll go on with you. I brought my passport, old friend.
Yeah.
Right. What do you say I come with you?
Yeah.
And this is the part that hurt me the most. Indy totally blew Sala off. His friend of over 30 years and just blew him off. Like, it's fine. And then Indy almost got run over by a car.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so the scene in the trailer where Sala says, "Give him heck, Indiana Jones." I thought that was a pretty cool moment, right?
Yeah, I was thinking, maybe Sala is gonna be able to come with him. That'll be really nice,
Yeah.
Seeing them together on an adventure, but no.
Yeah.
I think it might have actually been nice if they had Indy, Sala, Helena, and Teddy. That would have been a pretty nice cast.
Yeah, it would have been nice if they had something more for
brought Short Round instead of replacing him.
Okay, so let's move.
I don't know if Kiki Kwan's schedule was like too packed to fit in Indiana Jones or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know why they didn't do us some fan service.
Yeah. So can I go back to this?
If you have some Q&A, put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Talk to us. Human interaction.
Can we go back to the scene where, Indy is at the airport and he's being, Sala drives into the airport. Indy is, like you said, he, turned away. He didn't want Sala to go with him. And then when Sala says, "Give him Indiana Jones," and Indy turns around and waves, and then this car all of a sudden just comes out of nowhere and almost hits Indy.
I feel like that really soured the moment.
Yeah, it ruined the shot, and I have no idea. There weren't that many moments where you can cheer Indy on, and like I said, I love that moment when Sala put up his fists, and then it got ruined by this car just trying to come in, and I don't even know whose idea that was to have that car break the moment. But anyway,
in the Last Crusade, you were cheering for this man the entire time. Like in pretty much all of Indy's movies, you've been cheering for him.
Yeah,
I think that was amazing. like that just to see Indiana Jones and egg him on, whether it be in theaters or on the screen. But in this movie, there weren't many moments to do that. And the one moment we had got soured by that car, and I think it was just really sad that Indy blew Sala off. Like they could have at least put it in a lie where Indy's telling Sala, like, you got a family to live for, man. I couldn't take you away from them.
Yeah.
You don't know what would happen. This is an adventure where you might not be able to come back. You have a family to live for. Stay with them. Spend as much time with them as you can. Like that would have been a lot more sentimental, a lot more nice. Just have like some sort of happy piece playing in the background, like sort of melancholy, but also upbeat, like just something reminiscent of Raiders, just to kind of go back to the old days with Indy and Sala.
Yeah.
Like just something nice, like a better send off for him.
Understood.
Like they use Sala as a taxi in this movie.
Okay, well, I mean, he does come back at the end, so we will get
Yeah,
back to Sala.
as a taxi to take the kids to get some ice cream.
Okay, all right. Q&A.
We don't
What we have?
really have any.
Dallas. Okay, in New York during the Apollo 11 parade, Indy didn't care to celebrate such a huge accomplishment. Later, we learned that he lost his son and his wife left him. That made him emotional. Yes, that is true.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel like that would have been all the more reason for him to tell Sala, no, you can't do this. You got a family.
Mhm.
Like that would have been all the more reason to tell him that because he can't lose yet another friend. And the crazy thing is, I figured this out before Helena asked Indy what he would do if he could go back in time. Because I'm hearing the news report and I'm just thinking, like, what? So they're saying he lost his son and he just got through a divorce. And I heard that and I told Dad, I turned over to Dad in the theater and I'm like, but Dad.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about Mutt later as well.
Okay, that was first of all, I feel like that was very half baked of a move to just get rid of Mutt like that. Like I get that Shia LaBeouf wasn't really in the best position to return, but like they could have at least said he has his own family now or something like that. Like have him and get a happy ending at the very least instead of just, getting rid of him.
I agree with you. All right.
We
Since
didn't
you,
even have to see him. They could
yeah,
have just mentioned him.
yeah. Since you brought it up, let's talk about Mutt. So we, of course, didn't see him for whatever reason. I don't know if it was necessary for Mutt to die. So apparently, Mutt did enlist in the army, and
died in the Vietnam War.
he died in the Vietnam War.
I feel like that wasn't necessary because it just made Indy's rock bottom more rock bottom. Like I feel like him getting separated from Marion was enough, even though that shouldn't have happened either.
Yeah.
Because literally this was all set up as a happy ending in Crystal Skull, and then they undid all of it.
Yeah.
I feel like that was also very half baked.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. I don't know. I wasn't expecting Indy to be in this state of mind. Right. I just found it very interesting that, I don't know what it is about, creators right now, nowadays. They're giving a bad impression of growing old. Right. And I want to say more about it later on. But in terms of Mutt, no, I don't believe he should have died. I think they could have, said, well, Mutt is somewhere overseas,
maybe Mutt's
working overseas,
abroad,
right? But I think they could have done a better job with putting Indiana Jones in a better position, right? I don't think he needed to be at a point where he lost everything. But, once we get towards the end of the film, we could talk about, what happens with Indy, why he is in this state of mind, and then come back and say, well, what the creators could have done, the writers could have done something a little bit different. All right. So Tangiers. So we're in Tangiers, right? So there's this auction going on.
And Helena's selling the dial.
Yeah.
So Indy is there, and he's like, we're related. This dial is actually my property. I'm going to take this back. And Helena's like, 100. Do I hear 150? 150. Like, she's still auctioning off this dial as Indy is trying to get it back. And then Voller and his henchmen show up and they're like, this is our dial now. And then Indy's like cracking the whip, like, get back, get. And then
Saw that in the trailer. Yeah.
everyone pulls out every type of gun. And he's like, uh oh. And then he has to duck.
Right.
And he manages to escape once again.
Now,
And also, Voller has the dial. He manages to swipe the dial.
Right.
From Teddy, actually. And they almost capture Teddy.
Okay.
He manages to escape, and then him and Helena and Indy, Teddy drives a tuk-tuk.
Yes.
And you know what? I feel like this is something that Short Round would have done. Like, drive the car. Because remember, in Temple of Doom, Short Round was the one driving the getaway car for Indy and Willie. Remember that? This just kind of felt reminiscent of that. And then they're trying to escape. Meanwhile, Voller is also in a tuk-tuk or car. I don't know what he was in, but they're chasing each other. Indy's in one tuk-tuk. Helena and Teddy are in another one. And then Indy crosses over to their tuk-tuk as they're getting chased. And then it gets totaled. So Helena and Teddy jump into another one and leave him behind. So he manages to start up the old one and follow them.
Yeah.
And eventually they end up not being able to get the dial back. Like, Helena literally jumps onto the other car and breaks the window and starts grabbing at the dial and knocking Voller and almost choking this man. And he refuses to let go of the dial. I'm like, wow. I find it amazing that you'd rather die than let go of the dial of destiny. But eventually, the tuk-tuks are too far apart, so Helena gets back on and manages to, survive, and they kept riding.
All right, post your comments, Q&A. All right, bring them on in. Let's talk about it. Yeah, but this is another action scene, which was, I thought, done very well.
So the tuk-tuk actually burns out.
Yeah.
The Nazis escape, and Helena, Indy, and Teddy are kind of there. However, Indy gets the bright idea to grab Teddy's gum, and he uses that to cover the little burnt spot on the grill of the tuk-tuk because apparently gum is heat resistant.
Okay. All right. So to wrap up Tangiers. Okay. So Indy's there.
Oh, by the way,
Indy is there. Helena's there. Voller is there.
Beyonce.
I don't know how they knew where Helena was going to be. I know.
Once again, teleportation.
Okay, is that what it is? That's what that's your point of teleportation. Yeah, we'll get there.
Voller must be a six-dimensional being.
Yeah, it's interesting that he knows, like Voller knows exactly where they're going to be. I don't know how he knows this, but anyway. So at the end of this Tangier scene, who gets the dial? Who has the dial at this point? Is it still with Voller?
It's still with Voller.
Okay, all right.
Oh, so one more thing.
Yes.
Helena's supposed fiance shows up, and he's like, "I love you, Helena,"
which
and
I have no idea
chasing
why
after
he showed up. Like,
I don't know why he was there.
Yeah, it was a little.
I feel like the Nazis were enough.
Yeah.
I remember when Helena let go of Indy was like. He put his feet up on the car, and then Teddy was driving, or Helen. One of these people was at the wheel, and then Indy's like pushing the car back with his feet, and the Voller turns around and he's like,
"Okay,
that was funny."
All right, remember you're making these. There are going to be people who are going to be listening to the podcast, so they can't see your facial expression.
Voller had this expression of disgust that was so comical.
Okay. Now you mentioned Teddy. You have to explain who Teddy is.
Basically, Teddy is a friend of Helena's.
Yeah. Young guy.
Yeah.
Teenager.
Probably a little bit older than me. He's got a mustache.
Yeah.
Or just hair on his face. So anyway, he tried to steal Helena's purse when he was 10, so Helena took him in, and they've gone on adventures together ever since.
Okay. All right.
I was thinking she'd say his parents died and she kind of, adopted him. Like Short Round.
All right. Post your comments or questions. If you have them, just let us know. All right. So we'll keep going.
Yeah. And You want
Talk about the tomb. Well, they're talking about the tomb of Archimedes.
Yeah.
So they find the tomb.
Oh, by the way, Teddy is captured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Nazis pick him up and they put him into a not so suspicious unmarked van that they then drive off in. That please don't follow people into unmarked vans. And then
now we're in Sicily now, right? Okay. This is the point. That's
sure.
that's where
sure
Teddy gets captured. So they find a tomb. They find the other piece of the dial, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a little bit of a piece in between there.
Okay.
So they go deep sea diving.
Yes. Okay. Talk about this. Yeah.
Puss in Boots! Puss in Boots! Yeah. So Antonio Banderas is playing Indy's diver friend. I'm just gonna call him Puss in Boots from here on out. So Puss in Boots, Helena,
because we don't remember the character's name. That's why.
And Indy, they
go ahead.
They go deep diving.
Yes, and they're looking for.
Yeah, they're looking for this little tablet that they have to translate. So, they manage to get it, but the entire place is filled with eels, which are underwater snakes, and we all know Indy is afraid of snakes. So, yeah, that wasn't crazy.
Eels, snakes, yeah.
And then Helena swims up, but then she swims back to grab Indy and save him, and then they go back, only to find out that Puss in Boots' crew is K.O. And Teddy is once again in the arms of these Nazis.
They found him, right?
This is before they capture him. So eventually they're all just sitting down. The Nazis are all there. And Voller's like, translate this. Indy refuses. They shot Puss in Boots in the knee. He survived that. But Indy still doesn't want to translate. He was about to, actually, I think. And then Puss in Boots got up, tried to fight him. KO'd by the Nazis. So, anyway, Helena gladly translates it. And they figure, where was it?
Do you remember what was the translation?
No, but either way, it was not correct.
Okay.
And Helena also had dynamite. So she lit the dynamite, threw it at the boat, blew it up, Somehow,
and
these people, they figured it out. And then Indy and Helena and Teddy, they managed to escape. They get onto the boat. They're sailing off. Meanwhile, the sixth-dimensional being that is Voller pulls out his binoculars, and he's just looking like they're heading west, and somehow manages to calculate the entire trajectory to where the Tomb of Archimedes is by just knowing that they went in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that was a little muddled for me. Okay, all right. So I think this is the middle part of the movie that maybe didn't gel for me.
Like the boat
I thought
could have gone in any direction from west. For all you knew, they were making a detour. So how did this sixth-dimensional being figure out that by the trajectory they were like? This is what's going through Willo's head. At the trajectory they're going, the current rate, the miles, and the winds at the miles per hour that they currently are, they are moving about 53 miles per hour. Now, at those 53 miles per hour, they're heading due east, which is where they should have been heading, but they're now heading due southwest. So if I follow them southwest, and then I manage to calculate the rest of the route, I will be able to stop them and then follow them.
Yeah. It's really hard to explain. I wasn't planning on going beat by beat, but it's because it's a lot going on. It is a 2.5-hour movie pretty much, but we're just trying to capture.
I like the movie overall.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
No hate.
And we haven't even gotten to the last third of the movie. So
no hate.
Let's stop the Q&A. All right. So do we have any Q&A? Okay. I don't. It's not on the screen.
Oh, question for Alex.
Okay.
Do you think Crystal Skulls required viewing for Dial of Destiny?
No.
If you want to get to know Mutt, who's not even in this movie, still no.
Yeah, no. In my opinion, our opinion, I can only give you my opinion. You don't need to see the Dial of Destiny. Not at all.
I mean, you don't need to.
Because the only thing you need to know about the Dial of Destiny, Alex, is Marion and Indy gets married.
What?
And I'm sorry, in the Crystal Skull. Sorry,
Oh yeah, yeah.
in Crystal Skull, Indy and Marion get married, and Mud is in the movie. That's all you need to know, because whatever what happened in Crystal Skull
It
kind of
does
gets
not affect
reversed in the Dollar Destiny. So
Yeah, like,
so you don't need to see it.
and Indy literally just found out he had a son,
Yep, we're going to talk
and then the
about that.
son died.
If
Like,
we can
Indy
ever get
didn't
to the
even get
end.
to build an emotional attachment.
Yeah. Okay. So, like Chris, thank you so much, Chris. It definitely helps to have seen the Crystal Skull before seeing the Dial of Destiny for emotional impacts for a few scenes. Okay.
I actually saw Crystal Skull. I still was not emotionally impacted by the decisions, except for the fact that they didn't make sense.
Well, no, I think what Chris is saying that, okay, so, we know that Indy and Marion gets married, but in Dial of Destiny, they're divorced.
Yeah.
Right. And, Indy meets his son for the first time in Crystal Skull, and then 12 years later in Dial of Destiny, Mud is gone. All right.
Yeah.
So
that really, I feel like that really wasn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even have to see Mutt in this movie. They could have just made it.
I know,
he's
Pete,
like
you're upset about Mutt. Yeah, it's
making motorcycles in Denmark or something.
No, I understand that. Yes. So, all right. So let's get to. Do we have any more Q&A? Dallas, thank you so much. It made me emotional. Yes, it was an emotional movie. It was. Yeah, it was an emotional movie. Yeah,
it was an emotional movie.
And Chris says I don't like ranking movies, but it's probably my top 2 or 3 because some stuff in the first Indy flicks did not age well. Oh,
yes. Okay. That would be correct. Crystal Skull, Temple of Doom.
He says the first Indy flicks, so maybe the first 3.
Those are films, but like,
yeah, I know.
What?
I know what flicks mean, but all right. Okay, so let's go. So we got Damien Ristori stopping by to say hello from the UK. Wow. Okay, great channel, guys. Ever thought about doing the James Bond films? Have to ask as a Brit.
I think we'll gladly do the James Bond.
Well, you have not seen any of the Bond films, but I have. I'm a big fan.
I like to do those, actually.
I'm a big fan of the Bond. We'll see. We'll see. But thank you so much for that question, Damien.
Which James Bond films in particular, like which actor do you want us to review, or do you want us to do all of them?
Well, there's 25 movies altogether.
Exactly.
So we'll have to figure
25 weeks of content.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about it.
All that, because I have to watch all those movies.
Okay. So
like,
yes,
we might have to space those out.
Okay. All right. Any more comments before Eric loved the film?
Try to do some of them.
Eric loved the film. All right, great, Eric. Thank you. And I say watch all the films. Okay, yeah, I got you. I look. So I think Alex's question is: do you need to see the Crystal Skull
to see it to understand
the Dial of Destiny?
So,
and my answer is no. Now, I'm not saying to Alex that you don't need to see it at all, but I think he's asking, is it necessary to see it?
Yeah, so, like if you just want to watch it in order, I'd say do that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. Never see or hear from Short Round again. We were very disappointed that we didn't get to see Short Round.
Really unfair, and they really duped us with that special look, because the only people that had a special look were actors and cast of the current movie.
Yeah,
and George Lucas.
You're right. So I don't know. I really thought they could have put in a cameo appearance with the Short Round, but they
could have just.
I didn't think when we were talking about this last week, what we expect to see in the Dial of Destiny. That was one of the things we wanted to see, Ke Quan. But I don't think the creators were going for
indie spin-off like Ke Quan.
We're going for a fan. What was it called again? The fan service. Fan service. They weren't going for fan service, so we weren't going to see them. So Damien, definitely do each debut films. Okay, I got you. All right, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So there are 5 James Bonds. So Damien's talking about maybe doing our favorite James Bond film from each actor, maybe.
Well, their debut film, so that's like.
Well, yeah, we could do the debut. Yeah. That's not a bad idea. We'll talk about it.
Do all 5 of their debut films.
That might be a good idea. I think that's a good idea, Damien. So Chris says necessary, no, but that's the Star Wars nerd in me that ingests it all. Exactly. Yeah. Dr. No, are you Majesty's Secret Service yet? That's correct. Live and Let Die, The Living Daylights, GoldenEye, Casino Royale. Yep. 5 films, 5 Bonds.
That's 6.
Or are there 6 Bonds?
Yeah.
Am I forgetting a Bond? I might be forgetting.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so Sean Connery, Roger
You're counting
Moore.
Pierce Brosnan, right?
Yeah, Sean Connery, yes. George Lazenby, Roger Moore. Yes, I did. I am forgetting Timothy Dalton. I'm sorry. Nothing against Timothy Dalton. Pierce Brosnan.
Please don't take that out of
Daniel Craig.
context.
So 6 films. Okay. Eric says they should give Quan his own Disney Plus series that takes place in the 70s, if you ask me. Why not?
What?
Interesting. I think he's going to return in Loki season 2, right? Didn't we hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to debut in Loki season 2.
Well, you're right. Not return, but we will see him again in Loki. So he's in Marvel. So he's on his way.
Yeah.
He's an Oscar winner, so you can see him. You can see him.
His speech had me in tears. He had me accepting that Oscar.
You took my joke away. I was about to say you're going to see Ke Quan everywhere, anywhere, anywhere, all at once. So that's bad joke.
He was like the Optimus Prime of the Oscars.
It was a dad joke. Yeah. All right. So bring in your comments. Let's talk about it. All right. Let's move on. While we're waiting, let's move on to talking about. We talked about finding Archimedes. Let's go to the siege. All right, so let's go. Let's talk about the ending. So we're at the ending now, right?
All right.
Did I miss something?
I was just gonna finish up the tomb.
Go ahead. Go finish up the tomb. Go ahead.
I'll make this quick.
Yeah.
What they do is they melt that slab that Helena translated to find out that there's a map in there, which they also have to translate. And then they lead it to the tomb, where they find the other half, which Voller promptly takes. He shoots Indy. Helena and Teddy escape. And then, for some reason, Helena asks Teddy to fly a plane.
Which he's never done before.
So this, I'm gonna assume he's 14. This 14-year-old is flying an airplane. And then Helena somehow manages to sneak in through the wheel ports.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about this. So now
the wheel ports, everybody.
So at this point, Voller has the dial, the complete dial.
So Voller has both of them. Right. It's working now.
Yes.
He's on his way.
Yeah. He shot Indy. He's taking Indy with him.
By the way, Archimedes has a watch that is 1,000 years ahead of its time. That's like 2,000 years ahead of its time. And this watch is very out of place. So we'll find out why later.
Okay.
And what happens is Voller's plan is to go back into 1939. And he is going to get rid of Hitler and then take over as the leader of the Nazis so that they can win World War II.
Yeah,
which is twisted.
Yeah, that's
But Indy, being a smart man, he's like, your coordinates are wrong.
Yeah.
So they end up going back to 212 BC. And that
the siege of Syracuse.
Right.
Okay. Exactly. Now, setup and payoff, right? This was the lesson that Indy was giving in his lecture at the beginning of the film, right? And here we are. So, which was interesting because I didn't pick up on it. I thought this was a very exciting moment in the film. When Voller took off in his plane and he's going back in time, I'm really thinking that they're going to head back to World War II, that era.
That's what I was thinking.
And I was shocked that, we went so far back.
They went about 2,000 years far back.
Yeah.
Before the birth of Christ.
And I thought that was awesome. That was totally unexpected. Yeah, but you were talking about Helena on the motorcycle. She's riding a motorcycle in the rain.
And she leaps onto the
plane before the plane takes off, and then
she is safe.
Yeah, and then the dial opens this portal that his plane follows, and then the plane that Teddy is piloting also follows. Yeah. With the pilot sleeping in the back. So they're now in this timeline of BC.
Yeah.
Yeah, BC timeline.
Fun fact, Archimedes is actually killed in this battle.
In history, right, yes. That's historical information, But
historically, he is killed at the very end. So Voller is panicking, and he wants to go back to present day.
Yeah.
And has no clue
how to get back.
And their plane crashes and burns. And they look like pizza that was left in the oven an hour too long.
Okay, but you're skipping. Okay, right? Because Keith, you're skipping. So you remember, Indy is on the plane, right?
Yeah.
And Helena is on the plane, and they try to But no, you didn't talk about Helena and Indy dropping off the plane before the plane crashed. That's important too.
Oh yeah, so they just. I'm pretty sure you would figure that Indy and Helena survived their
right.
title movie.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
So, Indy, who's also been shot in the chest, somehow has the
more towards the
shoulder.
Yeah, yeah.
He's been shot in like the shoulder,
Yeah.
but it's like right by his chest.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd be crippled at the moment, but he has enough strength to grab Helena, take out a Nazi, grab a parachute, and pull the cord out the parachute and land.
Yeah.
And then in the next scene, he is struggling to stand up. I feel like this.
Well, they land right in the middle of the battle, right? There's a battle going on,
I feel like
army.
this when Indy got hit, like this was just kind of a plot point at some points in time, and then at other points it just wasn't there because remember when Indy first got hit, like he couldn't even fight the Nazis, and then all of a sudden he's doing all these super moves, and then he lands and he can't even talk straight. Like
yeah, and then
that didn't make sense.
Okay, and then the crash, right? You know, Voller's playing with Clabber on it.
Yeah, then
they're gone.
Then they crash and turn into pizza.
Okay, so they're now gone. So now Indy is go ahead. Indy is on the beach, or in the middle of the battle.
Yeah.
What does? Okay, go ahead.
Real quick. So Archimedes actually grabs the watch. It's Voller's watch, everybody.
Right.
It's Voller's watch.
So now tie that back because that's the watch that was found in
Archimedes' tomb.
Right.
And another thing, when we first see Archimedes, he has the pieces of the dial laid out on a table, and it looks like he's struggling to put them together.
Correct.
And I'm just now realizing, like, him seeing the completed dial in the future is how he managed to complete it in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So Archimedes hands back the dial, and Indy's like, I want to stay here. And Helena's like, no, if you stay here, you're gonna die. Like, you can't do that. And Kenny's landing, and he's like, Helena, we gotta go. The portal's almost closing. And Helena's like, sorry, Indy. Knocks him out, which I'm like, good. Good.
Well, okay.
Knock him out.
Yeah, this was a little scary for me because
he was having delusions of grandeur. I'm like, no, they are not about to burn down the Indy franchise by leaving him 2,000 years in the past.
Yes. This was a sad moment for me, and I wasn't expecting it. Like I said, Indy's at a point where he has really lost everything, right? And he wants to stay in that era. He wants to stay to see the battle. He wants to see history happen right before his eyes. But he knows that he's not going to survive because they don't have the medicine or the same way to treat his wound there, if the same as if he was back in his present time. So he was willing to die while watching history. Okay.
I really feel like that was lackluster.
Right.
That didn't fit with Indiana Jones for me.
Okay.
Indiana Jones is not a man who likes to just sit back and watch things unfold.
Yeah.
He's a man of action. Like, to borrow from Shanks for One Piece, like, one of the things... Never mind.
Oh, One Piece, right. Yes, okay,
so,
yes. Anime. Okay.
Yeah, he's the type of person who would believe that guns aren't for threats, they're for actions.
Mm-hmm.
He's the type of person who takes action. Like, he wouldn't just sit down and watch the Romans fight. Like, that does not fit with Indy's character arc. And after 30 years of adventures, I don't get why he just want to sit here and die. Like, I get that he doesn't have much left, but he has Sala. He has his goddaughter. He has Sala's children. He could still talk to Marion if he wanted to, because she's still alive. Like, he has a lot to live for, but they made it out like he didn't.
Yes. And I'm so glad, Now, first of all, let's talk about performances right here. So Harrison Ford, as usual, he can't give a bad performance as Indiana Jones. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she is I guess she's controversial right now because some people are saying, well, they like her character, they don't like her character.
I don't really get it. I don't think she was bad.
No.
I think she was actually a pretty good character.
Right.
Not my favorite in the franchise, but she was good. She did good in her role. Like, I think she really I think she really was a good character for the part she was playing.
Yes. So she, at the beginning, she was not very nice to Indiana Jones, right? She took advantage of him. And, she said some very mean things to him at the beginning. But as it turns out, she did the right thing, because all this moment about the dial and everything started with her, right? Because she was the one that came to Indy and asked about the dial, and there were people looking for her. So all this is happening with Indiana Jones.
It's her fault.
It's her fault,
And
right?
if she
So
left
she
Indy
needed to
back in
figure out.
time, this would have been her fault.
Yeah, she needed to figure out how to get Indy back to the present day, right? So she did what she had to do. She knocked him out, and then we're back in New York, 1969, and he's back in his bed, and he's still healing from his wounds. We see Marion, cameo of Marion coming back, and
Karen Allen.
yeah, Karen
They
Allen.
had her on Wait, Don't Tell Me, so I'm like,
yeah,
I didn't think much of it.
I thought that was a spoiler because I didn't know if she was going to be in the movie, but apparently maybe it got out that she's in the movie. So I was expecting to see her. So she shows up at the very end and she's concerned about Indy and the spark is still there. So there might be a rekindling of that relationship. Who knows what happens? So
once again,
so that's,
I just feel like that really it was sad. And I feel like it didn't fit with the way Crystal Skull established things.
okay. Yeah. So so now that's how the movie ends. All right. So let's talk about like the thing that doesn't sit well with me with the portrayal with the film is the portrayal of Indy. I don't see why Indy had to be at a point where he lost everything. We're talking about him wanting to stay, and one of the reasons why he wanted to stay in Syracuse in BC was that he felt he had nothing else to live for. There was nothing back there, back in his time, to live for because he lost his son, he lost his wife, and I thought that was very sad. And I didn't expect that to happen to Indy because if you remember in the Last Crusade, Indy so much wanted to have a relationship with his dad, right? And he felt that his dad put these idols or whatever, these artifacts, these valuable artifacts before him all the time, at all times, right? Things that were 200, hundreds of years old was more important than Henry Jones Sr.'s relationship with his own son. So that was the idea of the Last Crusade, this father and son rekindling and getting back together, right? So, and now in the Crystal Skull, going back to the Crystal Skull, Indy finds out a little too, 17 years later, when his son is a teenager or, growing up, like a couple of years from, being an adult, he finds out that he has a son. All right. Now, I don't know why this is a creative decision by the writers to have Marion keep that a secret that Indy had a son. I think maybe they thought that would have been such a big reveal in the Crystal Skull that, wow, here, Indy, here's your son. But Indy lost those years of spending time with his son, right? Like throwing a ball or teaching him how to ride a bike. That time is lost. Okay. So can I say this? So now here we are at the Dial of Destiny, and here's Indy. He lost his son, so now he has nothing. But why did he have to lose his son? Why couldn't they have given Indy maybe grandchildren, right? Give Indy something to live for, right? Indy could have been a grandfather who was taking care of his grandchildren. Sala has grandchildren, so how about their children getting together and playing together and telling stories about how the granddads found the Ark of the Covenant, something like that, something a little more upbeat and optimistic. That was the part that
it was really bleak at the beginning.
Well, yeah,
like
okay.
I just felt like they stripped everything away from Indy, and then said, "Lights, camera, action."
Yeah. So,
and one thing, so I'm guessing Mutt died in like 1967.
Well, we don't know
because Indy and Marion were married up until 69.
Well, right, yeah, we don't know exactly when he died and when they got divorced, but
I'm assuming it'd be like 68 to 67.
Okay.
for a little bit of time, or maybe it was 1969.
Okay.
I don't know.
So we're going to see if there are any more Q&A. So we're going to start wrapping up. I know it's a little past an hour. So Damien says, not seen Dial yet, but going to thought free. I hope we didn't spoil it for you, Damien, but still no villain will top Mola Ram. I think you said that. As a 4-year-old when Doom.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. So Mola Ram's not your favorite. So as 4 years old when Doom came out, it was terrifying but fun viewing. What age were you when you first saw Doom?
You were 4?
4 years old. Yeah, that's actually interesting. So you saw it for the first time just a couple of months ago. I was
did you do that?
Look, I don't think he sat down to say, "Hey, I want to watch Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom." I think maybe, an adult might have allowed him to see it at 4. Anyway, so your question is, so Keith just saw it a few months ago. I saw it when I was in my teens. Yeah. So, yeah. And then, we talked about the controversy with the film and the violence. So we have that. We reviewed actually that we have now reviewed all 5 Indiana Jones films. So you can actually go back and see the other films that we, discussed.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, let's see if there's any more Q&A, but yeah.
None. All right.
Okay. So did we get everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right. So we want to remind you okay, Damien, stopping by the set. Yeah.
Oh, we already saw that.
Yeah. Okay. So we just wanted to remind you that there is this new podcast out there. It's a 6-part series. Yes, called The Redemption of Jar Jar Binks. It is a part of the TED podcast.
So The Redemption of Jar Jar Binks is hosted by Dylan Marin, and it'll revisit one of the most divisive characters on the big screen. The 6-episode series will discuss toxicity in the fandom, race, and what we have learned from this controversy more than 20 years later.
Yeah.
We were also just published in StarWars.com on the fan page. Thank you to Clayton Sandell for writing the article and Kristen Baber for arranging the interview. And join us on our race to 1,000. We are less than 50 subs away. We can do this, so please subscribe. Get all your friends to subscribe to our channel. You guys are what make our channel happen. Because without viewers and without subscribers, we'd be nowhere.
Agree. So where can people find us, Keith?
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts if you'd like to listen. Our socials are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fathers and Galaxy. Website, fathersandgalaxy.com. Our merch store is fathersandgalaxy.myspreadshop.com. Email us at KER@fathersandgalaxy. Our Patreon page is patreon.com/fathersandgalaxy. And by the way, if you were wondering where Secret Invasion was, we are moving our Secret Invasion reviews to Wednesdays. We're not sure if we're going to be doing Secret Invasion 2 and 3 together, or if we just want to be a week behind. We'll figure it out. We're going to plan on that thing. We're gonna figure that one out.
Yeah.
But either way, you will be getting a Secret Invasion review on Wednesday.
All right. Okay. Damien said the reason I asked, I love the Hasbro Indy figures and hope Mola Ram gets made. Have you guys seen the Holy Grail Knight and Dad Figs out soon? I have not. I haven't seen any of the Indy toys. Are these new toys? I need to look that. I need to check that out. I think that'd be pretty cool from Hasbro.
Last Crusade.
I haven't.
You remember when they were searching for the Holy Grail, and Indy had to go through all those puzzles, and then they found it, and then Ray Donovan drank from the wrong one.
Yeah.
So I keep calling this man Ray Donovan. Walter Donovan drank from the wrong one, and he ended up shriveling up.
You've seen these toys?
No, but I know the Holy Grail Knight, and Dad is Henry Jones Sr.
Oh, well, okay. I was just asking about the toys. I have not seen many toys in the last 40 years. So I guess they're now coming out. Maybe Hasbro is now coming out with a new line of toys. Scuttlebutt podcast. Just wanted to stop by and say hello. Thank you so much. Have a great stream. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. Damien says, really enjoying Secret Invasion. Yeah, we saw the first 2 episodes. We'll talk about
Secret Invasion is something else.
We'll talk about episode 2 this coming Wednesday. So we're going to be a little bit behind, but we'll catch up by next week.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We'll be back on.
All right. So this is fun. I think there was a lot more that I could have said about this film, but I think we got the picture. We did enjoy this film. It was a really
Yes,
good
we
film.
we do like it.
Yeah, I think Indy might have been portrayed a little bit differently if I were to change anything about the film. But outside of
Yeah,
that, the action sequences were wonderful. It felt like an Indiana Jones movie, and great performances.
for most of it.
Okay, for most of it. All right.
For most of it.
And John Williams, once again, thumbs up. John Williams. Okay. All right. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Target has a new line of Indiana Jones toys for sure. Did not know that. All right. We'll have to find out. Damien, what's your thoughts on the next Spider-Man movie? Who would you like to see as the villains? Maybe a Scorpion story.
I think
there's a Spider-Man expert right here. Go ahead.
So if I would write Spider-Man 4, I'd want to tie up some loose ends. And one of those is to bring back Scorpion and Vulture from the Morbverse. So at the end of Morbius, Vulture ended up in Morbius's world and he morbed out. And Spider-Verse actually explained that when all those villains kept getting sucked through timelines and ended up in different universes than they should have been. Like how we saw medieval Vulture in Gwen Stacy's timeline. So that's why Vulture was in Morbius's world. And I think what I would like to see is like Spider-Man. He's got his No Way Home final swing suit once again. Just not. He's trying to get back with his friends like Ned and MJ, just trying to explain to them everything that happened. By the end of the movie, they'll be completely up to speed. I think that's one of the things they really need to fix. And he's also going to have to talk to Happy and let him know. Happy will help him design a new suit because remember, his Far From Home suit was made in Happy's jet, which they still have. So that's how he'll make a new suit for the end of the movie. And Scorpion is going to be the main villain. He'll have had like a new suit, and I think it might be nice to have this movie kind of be like on the ground. Like maybe even having like Kingpin be hiring a bunch of villains to go after Spider-Man. Like maybe Scorpion is one of the villains he hires. I saw one of these theories online, which I agree with. That was my original theory. And like,
okay,
Scorpion will be the main villain, but they can't kill him off. They have to save him for the Sinister Six. And then at the end, like the end credit scene, we see Kingpin talking to Rhino and Vulture. And then for the mid credits, like Daredevil shows up in his non-condiment suit. Like Daredevil and She-Hulk show up in New York City, and they're talking to Peter, and Peter's like, "So what do you want me to do?" And they're like, "That man you fought, that was Kingpin. He's a villain of ours." And then like Kate Bishop and Echo show up, and then like it's over.
Did you write the first draft of the screenplay? Like, where's all this coming from?
My head.
You had time to.
I just thought of this.
Oh, wow. Okay, so who's the villain? You said the main villain would be Scorpion.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you.
And then at the end, Shocker. I'll throw Shocker in there.
Okay.
So like to have whatchamacall this man? Kingpin talking to Shocker, Rhino, and Vulture, starting to recruit them for the Sinister Six. And one thing I'm realizing, we don't have a Green Goblin or a Doc Ock in this universe. So I feel like they might be set up in like Spider-Man 5, and then unironically, Spider-Man 6 would be the one where the Sinister Six shows up.
Wow. Okay.
And also even having Miles in it, like Miles Morales. I feel like that would be really nice.
Oh yeah, we got to see Miles eventually on the
we got to have him
the big screen,
in the big screen.
Yeah.
And then, Miles and Peter in Spider-Man 6 will be teaming up to fight the Sinister Six. And Miles will have already had experience with this because he's been in Earth 42. And in Earth 42, there's a Sinister Six criminal syndicate in that world. That Prowler Miles is, I don't know what his ties are to them. I don't know if he's opposing it or if he's with them or if he's like, kind of a median, like if he's neutral to them. I don't know, but by then, Beyond the Spider-Verse will have come out, so that Miles will have had experience, and he'll be with Gwen's team, when she assembled Hobby and Peter B and Spider-Bite and Paviter, and they're going to find Miles. So I think that would be really nice if he's with them and he's talking to Peter like, there's a multiverse of us spiders out there, like stuff like that. Because phases 4, 5, and 6 are labeled the multiverse saga, and I think that Spider-Man 6 should come out in phase 6. So like that would be 2027, I'd say. Like that's assuming that Spider-Man 4 comes out now, Spider-Man 5 in 2025, and Spider-Man 6 in 2027. And then, I'm also thinking maybe not to see Gwen in this movie, or maybe if we do, it'll be like a friendship between them, because in both worlds they've lost each other. Like Gwen's Peter is dead, and then Peter's Gwen is dead. So just seeing the two of them on screen and their chemistry, like knowing that the two of them are all right, just seeing each other's faces again and just being friends, like I'm glad you're okay, and each just kind of be back, like to just say I'm sorry, like I'm sorry I couldn't save you in my world. And then Miles is just kind of the comic relief, not to break up that moment, but to just kind of bring us back from sadness and be like kind of the person who is not exactly the lead, but he's like the co-lead. Like they're all each leading their own parts of the movie. So everybody's a co-lead of each other. Not like to have Peter overshadow Miles and Gwen, or Gwen overshadow Miles and Peter, or Miles overshadow Gwen and Peter. Like to just have each other work off of each other and just the chemistry of each other.
The phone is ringing. I think Tom Holland's on the other one. Sony, if you're listening, there you go. You got your first draft. So
Sony, I would not mind writing script for you guys. Like, I would actually love to. You can tell me if you're like interested in what I write for you, or if you want me to change anything. But I'll be there. All right. I'll take Into the Spider-Verse one step further. Instead of animating it, I'll write it.
Yeah, there's a Zoom call coming in from Zendaya right now. So
yeah.
We'll
Hold on. We'll be back in 1 minute.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Yeah. So this is fantastic. I like. Wow. Okay. Phew. To be continued. All right. So we will talk more about.
I think we'll make an episode on our chronological theories of the next Tom Holland trilogy. And one more thing, they got to drop the home.
Drop the home.
Yeah, like however movies, Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home.
Yeah. So like I think that's a trilogy. They got to come up with something.
Yeah, they got to get rid of that nomenclature. Yes. I think we're kind of done with the homes.
Understood. Yeah.
Not exactly to have every movie have the same label, but just different movies.
Okay. We got more content to talk about. All right, this is awesome. I think that would be a great idea to discuss Tom Holland's future film.
And once again, like Spider-Man 4 should just be kind of a street level movie, I'd say.
All right.
And then Spider-Man 5 should be spent introducing Rhino and giving us a little more strength behind the character of Shocker, so that when we see him in Spider-Man 6, it's not a shocker.
There you go.
And I think in that movie, we'll also get like a post-credit scene of Green Goblin and Doc Ock, like in the lab with each other, working together, bouncing ideas off each other. None of the accidents will happen in that scene, but they'll know each other. And then when they meet up in the Sinister Six, they won't know that it's each other.
I got you.
Until like the end. When one of them says something that makes it a little too personal, and then they both realize, we're after the same guy.
Yeah. All right.
And then I think Doc Ock should have a little bit of good in him in both movies. Because in No Way Home, Ock was like, I think he was actually trying to be good, but like the arms were taking him over. Like they were being like his second brain, but in a way he didn't want them to.
Yeah.
So I think that would be nice to see him in control of himself, like in control of his own technology. Like remember when Spidey gave him that chip that fixed his arms so that he could think with his head and not the arms attached to his back.
Gotcha.
I think that would be nice.
All right. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it. I
Yeah.
remember in The Amazing Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
we were just walking past that gallery of the Rhino suit and vulture wings
Okay.
and Harry Osborn's glider, and then that never went anywhere.
So can they bring that back, you think?
I mean, in Amazing Spider-Man 3, like 2020.
Oh, well, I think you're saying like, we could bring back Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man
Yeah,
along
but
with
like
Tom Holland.
not in Tom Holland's movie, because
It's two
having the
separate films.
Sinister Six
Yeah.
come in twice
Okay. Yeah,
would
we don't
kind
want
of
that. Yeah.
defeat the purpose. Because
Okay.
like if we're gonna have Sinister Six in Tom's universe and then have Sinister Six in Andrew's universe, it's just gonna kind of be repetitive. So I'm thinking maybe the Sinister Six of that world will have a few different members, with different stories, different plot line.
Yeah.
And one of the things I don't want to do in Spider-Man 6 is have Venom.
Okay.
Like, nothing against Venom, but I don't feel like he'd fit in that type of movie.
All
like having Rhino, Shocker, Vulture, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Scorpion would be good. Like I know Sandman and Venom are usually part of that, and also Mysterio, but like Mysterio's kind of dead.
Let's pick this up, Keith, because I know we can go on talk about
Theory
this for
coming
another
soon.
2 hours. So, Damien, if you're still there, thank you so much.
Film theory.
Yes.
Matt Pat, please don't sue us.
Thank you so much, Damien, for your question. And actually, you had a very good idea.
We'll have you on the show to talk about Spider-Man, Matt Pat.
Doing the James Bond first films.
I'm gonna have to email you.
Until next time, everyone, we gotta go. Thank you. Take care. And we'll see you again.